And welcome to In the Key of G with Bishop John Gandy. I'm happy that you are there tonight. I want to thank my producer who's here tonight, Miss Kristen Eason. Kristen.
You're very welcome, Bishop. Glad to be here.
Yeah, always. And I've got a guest in the studio as well on tonight. I'm going to introduce him in momentarily. But let me first thank our sponsors. I want to thank Kamani. Kamani, love at first scent. For luxury fragrances for the modern woman. Imagine stepping into a world where every scent tells a story and every candle is meticulously hand-poured. If you crave something truly personal, visit our exclusive candle bar where you can create your own signature scent, whether it's for a gift or a moment of indulgence. Let your candle reflect your unique style. Shop Kamani at our showroom and candle bar at the Tanger Outlets in Atlantic City, Suite 230, or you can shop online at www.kamani.co. That's Kamani, C-A-M-O-N-I. Also, we want to thank the Abundant Life Worship Center Church, a biblical ministry of excellence committed to saving and building lives, located at 32 Bishop John R. Gandy Avenue in Egg Harbor City. For spiritually uplifting worship and powerful preaching and teaching, join us Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. And also, you can join us here on Facebook Live as well. I want to also thank the Hawks family businesses, serving customers and community for over 35 years. One of those businesses is Beacon Hall, turning moments into cherished memories. And also want to remind you to support the radio station. You can send your support for the station by check or money order, payable to WEHA, and you can mail it to P.O. Box 1674, Pleasantville, New Jersey, 08232. Or you may support the station by Cash App at $ We Have Gospel. And again, thank you for being there. And I've asked that you would take a minute and just share and like. Bishop Campbell, good to see you, sir. Bishop Campbell, good to see you, man. Eileen, God bless you. So my guest is in the studio tonight. I'm excited to have my guest on with us tonight, Dr. Arthur Garrison. Doc, how you doing, man?
Doing all right, Bishop. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. It's going to be your night because you were on prior to the election for a couple of times, and you shared some great information. And so I want to hear your analysis of what happened. How do we get? Is this your fault that we got? I say that just jokingly. Let me say this though. I think it's important that we not give people any indication that somehow or another, if you were supportive of Trump and or others may have supported Kamala, we're not enemies. We're not coming against each other, any of that. But we're just discussing the reality of the times, and we may have a particular perspective. Doc may have a different perspective. We all have our own perspective, our own views, and so anything that is said with that in mind. So we're not saying it from the standpoint of trying to start a war. The last thing we want to do is have unnecessary fallout between people, friends, family, Americans, and so forth. We're trying to think. We're talking about how do we proceed from here, where we are. What does it mean for us, and what should we do to move forward? So all that we say tonight is in that spirit. All right. So with that, Dr. Garrison, let me also, before I turn it over to you, let me just also mention that Dr. Garrison has wrote one of his books that he has authored. This book is called "Lord, Help My Unbelief: Stories of How God Answers Prayers When We Are Afraid to Have Faith." And I would recommend that you do get it. You can get it on Amazon, and we'll talk more about the book in a minute. But Doc, welcome again. Thank you for being here. And so tonight, I'm ready to listen. We're gonna talk a little bit, and let's begin with just your thoughts on the election and how things turned out. Were you surprised, sir?
I tell you, Bishop, I was not surprised that he won. I was not surprised at all. What I was surprised was the level of victory and the widespread defeat that Harris took. That was what surprised me. Trump was able to make there are multiple reasons on why she lost on one level. race, on one level, gender, no doubt about it. But Trump was always also able to tap in low propensity, disengaged voters who were young, non-college educated, working class in rural, Midwestern, southern states. He was able to put together a strategy of reaching young people. He was able to tap into millennials. He was able to tap into Generation Z, and he was able to split Generation X. He had a strategy that, in all honesty, I think a lot of us missed. One of the things that he had a strategy is that he went onto college campuses. I have to admit, I thought that was, all right, that was show and that wasn't going anywhere. But he tapped into the 1825 vote. And one of the things that Trump did is that Trump changed the approach in reaching voters by going to non-traditional, non-mainstream media outlets, and he drilled into all of them. I mean, when he went on the Rogan show and spent 3 hours, and then his vice president went on the same show for another 3 hours. But the thing is, he was talking to young, non-college educated white males. Then he was talking to white males, and that is who he galvanized. He overperformed in that group. He also was able to tap into a class socioeconomic divide, which is reflected in college education, and he was able to tap into a group because remember, there are more non-college educated voters than college educated voters, and he was able to maximize that group because of economic uncertainties and economic resentments that can date back to the 1980s, depending on how far you want to go back. And in a lot of things that I was reading and I was looking at, and one observation that was made is that the Democrats have become the party of black female college-educated, then college-educated voters on the coasts, with all of their using their word, woke policies. Trump tapped into the entire South. He tapped into Florida, tapped into the Midwest and upper Midwest, but he tapped into non-college educated rural voters who have, on a moral level, on an economic level, and on a deeply felt resentment level. And he was able to tap into them, and he said, I hear you. And they voted for him, and they voted for the Republicans, because now the Republican Party has shifted. If you take Trump as shifting the party, and it'll stick after Trump, we'll see in 4 years. But he has shifted the Republican Party to be the party of the non-college educated working class who resent college elites, and college elites are the constituency of the Democrats. And he was able to put that together.
Hold on a second. So I have John Costanza says false. I'm not sure which part of that are you suggesting is false? If you could just kind of state that, and then I'll have Dr. Garrison address it. Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay. So I think he put together a new coalition, and he changed the Republican coalition. Now, what we will find out in the next 2 years, the next 4 years, is if that is Trump, or has he changed the Republican Party base that will last after him? That is one of the things that we're going to find out. I think Trump won on major level because he was able to type into a socioeconomic rage and resentment of the Democrats. And you also have to throw in the whole COVID thing and the reaction that many people had to COVID, saying that these elites are telling us how to live. And one of the subtle things about COVID is the American economy was moving relatively well. COVID came and shut everything down. And the people who supported Trump never forgave the Democrats, who were seen as the Faucis of the world and the socioeconomic and the medical people of the world, saying we need to shut down to prevent COVID. Problem is, it shut down the economy, and it shifted the vote along with the disturbances in the summer of 2020 because of Floyd. And there was a resentment that was deeply felt. And that resentment did not dissipate over the 4 years of Biden.
Okay. So John Costanza, he comes back, he says, thank God for the Republican Party. As far, I think he's saying, when you mention Trump support coming from the uneducated, I think that he's taking issue with that. And he says that the Democrat Party has ruined the country. But as far as the uneducated, you have data that supports that Trump's support came from.
Yes, Trump won non-college educated voters by 60%, if I remember the number correctly. The majority of non-college educated voters, non-college educated white voters, voted for Trump. He was able to pull that in, and he was also able to pull in, and this is one of the things that was significant, Latino vote, male and female, went for Trump at 57%. The black male vote went for Trump at 21%. The black female vote dropped to 7%. It was at 8, and it dropped to 7. So Trump was able to tap into, and was also able to tap into the Asian vote. He did not win with the Jewish vote. He basically stayed about flat with the Jewish vote compared to his last run. But Trump was able to win at the margins. One of the reasons that Pennsylvania went the way it did is because even though Trump lost Philadelphia or lost New York, he was able to increase the number of people who voted for him in the cities in the blue states. So even where Trump lost, he did better than he did the last election. The thing with Harris is, even where Harris won, she underperformed where she won. And then she outright lost in many of the swing states. And that's how Trump has a 50.4% popular vote. Trump was able, this was the first president in 20 years, Republican president in 20 years, that won the popular vote. Most of the all of the Republicans since Bush won the Electoral College, not the popular vote. Trump won both this time around. That's where the discussion of his mandate comes from. On top of that, he picked up 3 in the Senate.
Yeah. And I don't think that this is for, so John Costanza says, I'm college educated and I have very educated black friends that voted for him as well. So I don't think that, you're not saying that everyone voted for him.
I'm doing categorical.
Right. And neither is this, for the benefit of the listeners, neither is this, what you're saying is not necessarily in support of or against one or the other. We're talking about the statistics, the data, the facts of what has happened. Whether or not an opinion will be expressed later, we'll see. But at this point, we're talking about the data and the facts.
Right. These are categorical groups. Now with the black male vote, now that's a whole conversation, and people are still trying to figure out what he tapped into. I think personally, Trump tapped into the black male vote, but you have to also look at age, and I think he tapped into black male votes from 20 through 40, 45. I think that's what he tapped into. Black votes 50, 60, 70 stayed with Harris. That's a generational shift, a generational difference. And that's one of the things we're finding with the votes altogether. I think there might be a generational shift that the Democrats are losing. The younger people don't have a emotional, psychological, historical bond to the Democrats that older voters do. And in our community, I think that's one of the things that explains it. The younger voters don't have the same attachment to the Democratic Party that older black voters do, because older black voters, they see the Democrats and they're still thinking about the Kennedys and the Johnsons, and they're thinking about fighting Jim Crow. Okay, the younger ones coming up, they were born and they have no idea, they have no emotional, psychological connection
Yeah.
to back of the bus, and you can't sit in this restaurant because you're black.
And in their minds, that seems like something that happened eons ago.
Or they don't know, or don't
At
care it
all.
happened at all.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. No, the students I teach, they were born after the iPad showed up and took over the world. Okay, so so the things that we remember and think about is not in their worldview. So unless they pick it up in college somewhere in a course, and then they look at you and say, okay, why? Because it makes no sense to them.
Right.
Older African Americans stay with the Democrats and Harris because we have a different attachment to the Democratic Party historically. The younger generation coming up, white, black, Latino, whatever, don't have that. And the Democrats have to talk to them on a different level,
Right.
and they're not doing it.
Right. So this younger generation doesn't have a loyalty to either side. They're listening and they're saying, basically,
Yes.
who's talking to me, right?
Exactly.
Who do I understand? And one thing Donald Trump has done, one thing that he does, he speaks very well to people who are uneducated or without college degrees, the average normal person. He speaks to them with in an unbelievably clear way. They get him. They understand him. He speaks their language. He speaks to them, and he says, "I'm speaking for you
And to you. And I justify your anger and your rage and your inventing that the American dream that you were told you would have, you don't have. And I hear you." The Democrats did not tap into that and only now begin to try and grasp that concept. Trump, I think, understood it instinctively.
I want you to answer this. I'm going to answer Albert Smith. I'm going to get you in a minute, Bishop Smith. Do you think that the Democrat Party, blacks have been saying for generations, the Democrat Party, or decades, that the Democrat Party takes our vote and support for granted? We vote for Democrats. We're the most loyal voters, the block of voters in the Democrat Party, and yet we seem to not get everything or the things that some of us think we should get. And I think that probably some of that's it's on us because we don't ask for things and we don't ask for it at the right time. So we don't have the same political savvy. It seems when it comes to getting something. What is the disconnect with the Democrats and the African Americans? Why do you think that this is going to make a big difference? Do you think that we're going to begin to look at this relationship, this alliance, this allegiance to the Democrat Party a little differently going forward?
It depends if you're talking about Democrats running your city or Democrats sitting in Congress, because those are two different things, and that's a subtlety that doesn't get spoken of well and doesn't get focused on. Also, I think there's a generational shift. That's something else. I think the Democrats, period, do not know how to talk to young people and do not know how to talk to people who are not college educated. They think and speak that way. Harris thinks and speaks that way and ran her campaign that way. And then she said that, well, we will meet people by using, TV stars and movie stars and all the rest of that. And you know what? Yeah. Assuming that worked before, it didn't work now because she got beat bad because it did not make any difference that Beyonce and Swift liked Harris. It made no difference whatsoever. It put on a good show, but it made no difference whatsoever.
So it says that they view the black millennial vote perhaps as they take it for granted, as if you're not really thinkers.
I'm not so sure so much that they take black votes for granted. I think they're losing their ability to talk to black voters because the black voters they're used to talking to are on a different age wavelength. But if you come down to the cities, now that's a whole other conversation, because the cities now we want garbage picked up off the street, we want it to be safe on the street so our daughters and our daughters can walk around at night and not get shot. Okay, here's the thing. And this requires a slightly historical context, but here's the thing. If you go back to the 80s and 90s, when Republicans talked about law and order, they were basically talking about we need to build prisons and put criminals in them, and they define criminals by urban, be black. Okay, that was our hang up with the Republicans and this law and order type thing. So Democrats to win, because Clinton taught them this, Democrats to win bought into the law and order thing. Okay, then. So that's why law and order has a sticking point with us. But the problem is that whole conversation does not work with millennials, because that whole story of the 80s and the 90s is not them. So Democrats now are trying to figure out, how do we talk to young people generally? How do we talk to young black men generally? Because one of the things that got black men upset is they would say to Democrats, all you want to talk about is criminal justice and you think you're talking to us. No, you are not talking to us by talking about criminal justice reform. Thank you for the reform, but that's not it, because guess what? We own businesses too.
Right.
We do, and so we want to talk about taxes and all the rest of that too.
And there's a very small percentage of us who are, in fact, have criminal records.
Right.
You know, so so you're making the assumption that you're speaking to us as if we are all
want to talk about crime,
and we're all criminals, perhaps.
Right.
And I think that's insulting. I think you're right.
And so that is also part of the problem.
Let me mention, Albert Smith says, should we vote for I'm not sure they're broken up. Should we vote for a party or what's best? Oh, should we vote for a party or what's best for us to live? Number one. Then he also says, you keep mentioning educated versus uneducated as though one is greater than the other. Make your point clear.
Oh,
please.
okay. All right, let me make this clear. Okay. It's a category.
Right.
I am not putting moral center on either one. It's a category. And if you look at the voting numbers, the numbers that push Trump into the White House are non-college educated voters. Trump had a strategy to meet those voters. He was not trying to get college-educated voters. Now, there's a difference between how college-educated voters and non-college-educated voters, the worldview that they have. It's not about good or bad. It's about there's a difference between the two. Trump tapped into the bigger group. That's part of what the Democrats missed and are missing structurally, because structurally they are full of people who are college-educated thinkers with worldview. Their experts and their consultants all come from California or New York. They are not going into the Midwest to ask those people, the people that live in those areas, what do the people that live in those areas think? That's the problem with the Democratic Party. They are stuck in a mindset. This election broke them because now they have to deal with the fact they're stuck in a mindset.
So let me say this, though. I don't think we should give the impression that the Republicans care more about the people on the in
No,
those,
they know how to. Their rhetorical battle.
Right, they took advantage of.
They won the rhetorical battle.
They knew they could not win the coasts, so they saw those who are in the inlands as the
Right.
low-hanging fruit.
What they unflatteringly call flyover
Right.
country.
Right.
But the point is that the Republicans have been working on tapping into that. And if you look at election maps for the last 3 presidential elections, maybe 4, going back to the Southern strategy, going back to 68, that was their strategy. The one thing with the Republicans is they just didn't fall into this.
Right.
And it's not like Trump showed up and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding showed up with him.
Right.
The strategy of making the Republican Party a national party through the Midwest, upper Midwest, the South, that goes back to 1968 and the Southern strategy. The thing works. The thing with Obama is that he was an outlier. He won breaking the Southern strategy. He's an outlier. He's not the breaking of the strategy. The strategy came back in full force and worked in 24.
Speak to this. Albert Smith says, he says, and I don't know if this is something that you want to comment on, because this is kind of opinion. Should we vote for a party or what is best for us? Let me say this before you answer. I've been doing these kind of programs for many years, and what people seem to anticipate, and I think here, is they think that you're taking a position and sometimes we do, but for the most part, the reason why I do this program is to share information. Mm-hmm. I have guests on from either side. In fact, I've reached out to Republicans to come on the program for the last several weeks, and none of them were willing to do so. I reached out to Latinos to have them come on and talk. So we haven't been able yet to make those things. It'll happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. My point is, my reason for being here is to share information and have discussion and conversation, and I'm not trying not to say something, and neither am I trying to say something. We're just going to say what is truthful, and we invite guests on to give information. And if you have an opinion, I want to hear your opinion, like anybody else's opinion. But, so back to the question, should we vote for a party or what's best for us to live?
Oh, absolutely. What's best for us, because here it is, everybody else does.
Right.
Okay. So that's not a difficult question. And that might be an internal conversation for us as a people to have, is because, you know what? There may be a point to the Democrats taking us for granted. It may be a point. Yeah. Now, since we're only 13% of the population, we're already outpopulated by the Hispanic vote and definitely outpopulated by the white vote. You know, on one level of math, the black vote has its limits. But we should definitely vote for who is best. The thing is, who is best? A 25-year-old is thinking different than a 60-year-old. Mm-hmm. Because then if you look at the numbers as categories, okay, the older of us stay with Harris. The younger of us we're moving towards Trump because Trump was saying so. Here, let me give you a number. Let me give you a number that kind of puts something in.
So while you get a number, let me say this. So what we think is best is an opinion that we all may see things differently. That's why
highly debatable.
That's right. That's why a conversation, and I talked about this yesterday. What I call the big discussion needs to be had from all parts of our community, and kind of really figure out what happened, why it's happened, where are we, and how should we move forward. We have to come to an agreement on what's best for us if we're going to move together as a group, as a community. And I don't know if that happens easily, but anyway, your point. Back to your point.
Because going back to the thing, the problem with the Democrats, the Democratic Party, is structural. They are a white male who is opening a business and a black male who's opening a business. 9 out of 10 things they're going to be in total agreement with. They're going to be in agreement with each other. The one thing will be racial and cultural. They are on the same, because they both have to deal with supply, and they both have to deal with rent, and they all have to deal with finding customers and advertising and paying loans back and finding investors. They are all they're both on the same page. So the Democrats coming to talk, the Democrats have to realize that black males trying to make something of themselves and white males trying to make up themselves, they are more on the same wavelength if they are socioeconomically on the same level. And that is the other subtlety we're talking about. For instance, look at this. In understanding why some voters are upset, the top 20% of America holds 71% of the entire wealth of the United States. The top 1% own 26% of the entire wealth of the United States. The bottom 20% has 3%. The second to the bottom have 20%. The middle 20% has 7.3%. The second to the bottom have 3.9%. I'm sorry. And the bottom 20 have 3% of the wealth. Okay, now here is the problem.
Who's getting the blame?
Right? Well, one, who's getting the blame for this, and who's getting the blame for the development of this, and the fact many people feel that the American dream, they can't have that they were promised they would if they work hard. They are angry and resentful. Here's the thing. Trump tapped into that and said, you're right, it's the government's fault. The Democrats missed that rage in the first place. And so Trump was talking to their rage and their disillusionment and their disappointment. Harris was not talking to it at all, or in such generalities that it didn't justify their rage. Because one of the things, even Hillary Clinton wrote this in her book, if your populace is angry, you have to find agreement with their anger first before you give them answers. If you jump right over their rage into their answers, you're not justifying their rage, because their rage is part of them and how they see themselves in this worldview.
That's the elitist posture, right?
Right.
To overlook the person and give an answer.
Because here it is. The economy on a macro level may be doing very well. Right? The CNBCs of the world will tell you, yeah, we're doing fine. Stock market's fine. Everything's going fine. Okay, you know what? That might be totally true. But if eggs cost too much, I don't care if the economy is going well.
Right. That's right.
And here it is. College-educated people with a worldview miss that. Non-college educated people catch that. And Trump caught that. Trump tapped into that. And that voted for Trump.
Listen, we're going to take a break. But let me see. Albert Smith says, not so much. I know quite a few young people, business owners who chose Trump over Harris by far.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know.
And from their point of view, that makes sense to me.
It makes sense. And so if that makes sense to them, because their interest is their business, what about the people and I tend to speak for the least of these, right? I speak for people who don't have a business, who don't see a way to make it tomorrow. Somebody has to care for those people. So I don't always put as much stock in how the wealthy are doing or what kind of tax break we're going to get in our businesses, because somebody has to care about the least of these. And I think that as Christians, we are the people who claim to be the caretakers of, in that area, generally speaking, and we should care about them. That isn't to say that legitimacy is not, those who have a business don't have legitimate interest. But my interest as a pastor and serving in the people of God, my interest is for the least of these, because somebody has to care for them. I don't blame them for their position. I want to make sure that they are looked out for. Yes.
Just to interject really quickly, I think that it is important for us to consider that, yes, some people take their interest is business, but I also think that we take for granted that in the kingdom, entrepreneurship is important, even still, because it breaks the back of the generational curses of poverty. So I think that it's still valid to consider entrepreneurship and business ownership, even though it doesn't always, sometimes talking money does kind of, when it comes to our morals and things like that, but it's still valid.
I'm an entrepreneur, been self-employed for since I was 26, so I'm absolutely for that. But again, my point is, entrepreneurs are people who are very resourceful. There are people, children, poor, sick and so forth, who have no voice, and so we have to have. And I believe it is the job of the church primarily, from a Christian perspective, to speak for those people. That is not to suggest that you're speaking against the interest of entrepreneurs or not even the wealthy. I think everybody's a part of it, but those who don't have a voice need to have a voice. So I tend to speak for them. Let me take a quick break. We're going to come back. Thank you all for being there. We're going to take a quick break. Be back in 2 minutes. Hang in there.
Merry Christmas. It's that magical time of year. WEHA proudly presents our first annual Christmas Bazaar. Mark your calendars for Saturday, December 14th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Beacon Hall. Get your holiday shopping done early or bring the whole family for some festive fun. Get festive photos with Santa. Indulge in delicious homemade desserts by Yvonne. And check out El Presidenta's Scrumptio's Fried Chicken Wing Dinners. Explore a variety of local vendors. There's something for everyone at this enchanting holiday event. So gather your friends and family and join us at Beacon Hall, located at 243 St. Louis Avenue in beautiful Egg Harbor City, New Jersey. For more information, give us a call at 609-641-8870 extension 2. That's 609-641-8870 extension 2. Don't miss out on this holiday cheer. We can't wait to see you there.
Hawks, a name that has been trusted for almost 30 years in the janitorial services industry, is proud to present Hawks Professional Moving Services, fully insured, local and long distance, packing services, commercial and residential, no job too small or too large, friendly and reliable services. For more information or a free estimate, 609-484-0452. Hawks Professional Moving Services, where we treat your belongings like our own. Hawks, a name that has been trusted for almost 30 years in the janitorial services industry, is proud to present Hawks Professional Moving Services, fully insured, local and long distance, packing services, commercial and residential, no job too small or too large, friendly and reliable services. For more information or a free estimate, 609-484-0452. Hawks Professional Moving Services, where we treat your belongings like our own.
Merry Christmas! It's that magical time of year. WEHA proudly presents our first annual Christmas Bazaar. Mark your calendars for Saturday, December 14th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Beacon Hall. Get your holiday shopping done early or bring the whole family for some festive fun. Get festive photos with Santa. Indulge in delicious homemade desserts by Yvonne. And check out El Presidenta's Scrumptio's Fried Chicken Wing Dinners. Explore a variety of local vendors. There's something for everyone at this enchanting holiday event. So gather your friends and family and join us at Beacon Hall, located at 243 St. Louis Avenue in beautiful Egg Harbor City, New Jersey. For more information, give us a call at 609-641-8870 extension 2. That's 609-641-8870 extension 2. Don't miss out on this holiday cheer. We can't wait to see you there.
And welcome back to In the Key of G. We've got a rather interesting conversation going on. And I think it's good. I think that I'm happy to hear the perspective of Bishop Albert Smith. He's an entrepreneur, speaking from an entrepreneur perspective. John Costanza, who's a friend of mine, he's a Caucasian brother. He's a Christian brother, Caucasian brother. And so it's good to hear perspectives. And that's what we do. We try to engage people, but I think it's important to have conversations so everybody can hear and understand the views and perspectives of the other person, without assuming that because a person is a Republican that you know why he is a Republican, you know what he thinks, or he's a Democrat, so you know why he thinks why he's a Democrat, what he thinks positions are in all places. We don't know because all of them, none of them are a monolith. I think both parties are made up of these constituents who are coalitions, especially, and I'm going to I've been saying for years, I think the difference in the Democrat Party and the Republican Party is the Democrat Party is a party of minority coalition of groups of people who all have different interests, and the Democrats have the unbelievable task of trying to please all of these various minority groups with all their varied interests. The Republican Party, not so much, has been primarily a party of white and white males, and they have a common interest for the most part, generally speaking. Then they do have some a minimal number of other smaller groups who tie into that coalition. So the Democrats, and I think that Trump has busted up. He has busted up the Democrat coalition by the losing the Latino vote, losing those who you're speaking of, some of the younger millennials, educated or uneducated. So he has really disbanded, to some extent, fragmented this Democrat coalition. They have the gargantuan task ahead of trying to reassemble this coalition. I don't know that it's doable because of these conversations being so difficult to have in 30-minute programs, 1-hour programs, and most people don't listen. They listen to very little of it, and they hear what they want to hear or hear what they thought they heard, and so it's going to be a tough road to hoe,
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, exactly. The Democratic Party is structurally weaker than the Republican Party because the Democratic Party the Republican Party is white males plus some other groups in it, all with a common view, but dominated and defined by white male voters and white voters in generally. The Democratic Party is everybody else,
right?
And so the Democrats are always trying to, they can't be happy if one of their constituency is unhappy, and that has made a structural weakness in the Democratic Party. And that's one of the things that sets Clinton apart and Obama apart, is because when they had to, they could tell a part of their constituency and coalition, no, you're wrong, we're going this way. Harris definitely did not and could not do that.
And she could not do it because...
Oh, I think in part because it didn't occur to the campaign that was necessary. I think, and I'll be honest, I missed it too. I completely missed what drove Trump's victory. I didn't see it, and partly the reason I didn't see it is because I was thinking about it as a college-educated voter who teaches. So it mattered to me that Trump wanted to dismantle and destroy and shrink down the federal government as a structural matter, because that's an issue that would matter to me. If you're in a place where what matters to you is rent and gas and eggs, you're not getting into some higher level conversation about whether the Justice Department should or should not be directly accountable to the President of the United States, and whether the President of the United States can pick up the phone of the FBI director and order somebody investigated, or order the IRS to investigate somebody, or order the Attorney General to investigate somebody, because structurally that's not how our government is structured since Nixon. Okay, that's an issue that's what matters to me, and that's what drives me. January 6th in of itself drove me. Okay. But if your worldview is the cost of eggs and milk and cheese and rent, you ain't having that conversation I want to have.
Is there a something? I think that there's something really problematic with people who, and now I'm going to say, with people who are who support Donald Trump and the MAGA agenda, and justifiably because of the economy or just whatever, the businesses and all that. When you're talking about a people who literally try to overthrow the government, you're talking about people who have done and a president, a candidate who had done some really unsavory, and they don't care.
And they don't care.
And they're not hearing. So there's a blinders, right? And again, as a Christian, I think that as a Christian, to me, those things matter. I think that character matters. I think that this idea of overthrowing the government matters for those reasons.
If my people would humble themselves.
Right. So yes. All those things matter. But it's something has happened with Donald Trump, where even people who are sound in their thinking there's a disconnect. There's a dissonance where people are willing to dismiss all of their values, and they're to center on either one selfish interest, which is okay because it's a self-interest, but at the expense of everything else that goes along with our Christian faith.
I'll tell you, higher than lower level. Here it is. If you think the system being the way the government works, the way economics works, the way our socio-economic system works, the system. If you think that system, by definition, is designed not to help you, to oppose you, to oppress you, you don't care if it gets blown up. What do you got to lose? And Trump voters, that logic makes sense. What difference does it make to me? All right, let's pick country B on a different hemisphere, okay? And their president decides to do something stupid. Okay, I suppose on some higher level concept of humanity I should care, but I don't. Same here. The point is that they do not care. Now, when you go to January 6th, one of the things that I found is that there are a lot of people who look at January 6th, they don't see an insurrection. They either see Trump voters defending their election that got stolen from them, or they believe it was a false flag operation by the CIA, FBI to make Trump look bad. Yeah. So January 6th is not an insurrection at all.
I guess what I'm saying, I'm speaking to those who are Christians because we have a different responsibility, a different, belief system. Our values are different. And my concern...
now I think that's where I would disagree with you, Bishop.
Okay.
All respect, I think that's where I disagree with you.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. If you're a Christian, you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, came down, rectified the relationship between God and man on the cross, came out of the grave 3 days later, and now sitting on the right hand of the Father.
I agree that there are different Christians.
Okay. So now here it is. Here it is. That's what a Christian is.
That's correct.
Everything else you're talking about is on a whole other level, and not all of us agree.
That is correct.
And that's the problem.
That is correct.
So,
I guess, I'm thinking of it from so there are Christians, and then there are Christians, and there are Christians.
There it is.
But I'm thinking, I guess, in terms of the my Christian world, right? Particularly Black African American Christians.
Okay, now, all right, now we know what we're talking about.
Right.
All right, then.
So talking about, and our views don't vary that much. There's some slight differences, so my concern is that when African American Christians will forego or forsake their true values, their true traditional core Christian values, in the interest of supporting Donald Trump for any reason, to me is a little bit, it's a stretch.
But here's the thing. I think a lot of I'm making peace with the answer is they don't care.
I get that. We're just talking.
No. I understand, but I think, I'm making peace that is the baseline. Now what? Because
now what is the question?
Now I think that's the baseline. They don't care. Now what? What do we do? Now I think the Democratic Party and our people, we have to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, I look at Trump. Okay, he was convicted on 91 crimes, right? Okay, he was adjudicated for a sexual assault in a civil case. Okay, he's been bankrupt 6 times. He nearly bankrupted part of New Jersey. I grew up in New York, so I watched him. So nobody from New York takes Trump seriously. But the point is, when people think that the system has taken advantage of them and left them behind,
no question.
And this man reflects that rage back to them and justifies it back to them. The fact that that you might think that he's got moral deficiencies is of no consequence whatsoever.
Get that. I get that, and I agree. That's why I've said 8 years ago or 12 years ago, I said that I understand why poor whites who live in the middle of the country would support Donald Trump. I get it completely.
Yeah, but we're the same way. Black people are the same way.
Yeah, I'm just saying. For 12 years ago, I understood why there was a loyalty for to Trump. I understand that. So let me say, Bishop Smith says, what about gay marriage? Democrat children being taught in every curriculum about transgender, and you can be a. Okay, how do you feel about it? He's asking me that question because he says, isn't that against Christian values? And he's addressing me. Of course it is. My position has been from the beginning, for me, this election was not about, for me, policies. I thought that for me, for my interest, and for the interest of, and now speaking of, for a group, for the interest of African Americans, I thought that, and I still think that if the policies that Donald Trump is planning to put forth through Project 2025, if those policies are followed through with, I think that they are crippling to African American community. To me, that is a more immediate and urgent need and interest that I have than some of the other. There are any number. No, neither party is my party. Let me be very clear about that. Neither party do I think is God in either party. There's no God in either party. Neither party do I see as a Christian party. I don't look to these parties to give me morals and ethics and that kind of. I don't look to the party to do that. All right. I look to the party to deliver to me resources. What government to do. What politics is about. Who controls resources. If the party that's claiming that has resources is saying we're not going to give you any, I do not want to see that party with power because they've already made it clear. You do not share in this game. Why would I, as an African American, if I'm being told, or if I feel I'm being told that we're going to change the game, and you're not going to have a hand in it? Why would I want that party to be in power? I'm going with the other party, where I can at least have if nothing else, an illusion of being included. That's my answer to that, to Bishop Smith. So of course, we're against transgender. I am against transgender. All the gays. I'm against all of that. All right. But to me, my most urgent, most immediate and pressing need is that I don't want to be in a country where I am relegated to being a push further back on the bus. Once again, that's kind of my answer to that. Anyway, that's my.
It is the thing, because this is also the thing. Culturally, right? African Americans, especially African American Christians, culturally are conservative. But I think we can make a split and hold two different thoughts in our minds.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll make an assumption for my example. Okay, so you're against abortion, transgender, and teaching in the schools that there's anything other than males and females. Okay, fine. Okay, but believing that on a Christian moral level is one thing. But you don't look to government to do those things.
Absolutely.
That is what other things are for, including the church, the family, and all the rest of that. Okay, the government is there to make sure that there is an equal playing field where everybody can get in, because today we may throw the transgender people under a bus. Let's say we all go for that. Throw them under the bus. Okay. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get thrown under the bus tomorrow.
You are next.
Because the famous poem says, right? I did not say anything
right.
because they were Jews, and I'm not a Jew. I did not say anything because they were socialists. I didn't say anything because I'm not a socialist. And he goes down the list. And then when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak.
Absolutely.
So the president
is not my pastor.
Right.
The government is not my church.
He is not. And you know what's interesting? White evangelical Christians don't have a problem with that distinction.
Right.
They know Trump morally is no good, but I heard one say it very clear to me. They said, okay, yeah, Trump's got all these issues, but I'm not trying to elect a pastor. I'm trying to elect somebody president who will do policies I like. Leave the morality to my church and me. Now, how is it that if white Christian churches get that straight in their heads, why are blacks trying to stick moral issues and policy issues on a government level in the same place and then jump to.
I don't think they are. I think they use it as a counter argument.
Yeah.
I don't think that that black Christians are looking to the government to be moral or ethical, or the pastor or the church. I don't think so. I think that those who support Trump will use that argument to help justify their position. Because I don't think that they really believe that the government should be
because you're right. I don't look to a president for a moral definition, but white evangelical Christians and white conservatives don't either. They gave that argument up when they lost over Clinton. Because I've heard them speak. Because I listen to conservative radio. They've admitted that when talking about the presidency, moral character is no longer an issue. They've made peace with that. They took their loss with Clinton, and they made peace with it. That's why they had no problem with Trump. So everybody else makes a distinction. One, you were talking about, our blacks being taken for granted. Okay, I think blacks, our people, need to admit, you know what? We need to start thinking like everybody else does.
Absolutely.
And we need to start seeing politics like everybody else does.
Thank you. That's why I do this program. This program is about informing us or hopefully creating some interest to help us really think about things from political view. Because we bought into the notion that somehow church and state don't mix, or whatever the case is. That's not a biblical concept. That's not a godly concept. That is a political position, and we need to get past that and begin to think about things. Because at the end of the day, you can say it doesn't matter. I'm a Christian. I'm a child of God. I'm a kingdom of God. At the end of the day, when the prices go up, as Deacon Hawksman, I'm going to read in a minute what he says. When prices go up 70% and you can't afford to buy bread, that's because of what happened in Washington, not because of anything. The devil didn't do it, right? That's what happened in Washington. And you said that doesn't matter. Where do you go now when you can't afford bread or can't get a job? Who do you turn to? You turn to Washington. You expect that Washington is going to fix the problem. So we need to get past this idea, this false notion that somehow or another doesn't matter. Let me see. Deacon Hawks says, when food prices are 70% more, by the way, you may not know, Deacon Hawks is the president of the radio station.
Oh, got you.
He says, when food prices are 70% more than 5 years ago, that's what most people are listening out for. Small businesses that are mandated with legislation that will steamroll existing small minority businesses out of business to the point being put out of business. It was not comprehensively addressed. It's okay. Yeah, I get it. It's a very, very. The conversation is not as cut and dry and as simplistic as I think it's more nuanced. I don't think that to
plenty of nuance.
Yeah, I don't think to be in support of small businesses means that you are against the unemployed or the poor. I don't think to be in support of the unemployed or poor means you are against small businesses. I think that my question would be, who should be the voice that represents those interests? And my point is, somebody has to speak for the poor. When I read my scripture, the Bible tells me, as a Christian, as a child of God, to speak for the poor. That doesn't mean you're speaking against the business people or speaking against the wealthy. I don't have any problem with the wealthy. I think when you talk about the wealthy, the problem with that is likely you'll never be one. And quite honestly, I'd like to be one. So I had no problem with the wealthy. So let's not get it twisted. But I'm talking about my obligation and my commitment to scripturally to speaking in behalf of the poor. There's some things that are happening won't affect me. All right, I'm gonna eat. So I'm not speaking as a person who doesn't have food. I'm not in that position. But I do have a heart and a love and care about those who are in need. And that's what we are. So for all you business owners out there, be clear about that. And I've been in business for all my life. So I'm a business owner, so I get it. And I want tax breaks too. But I'm not willing to overlook the needs of the poor So that's kind of my position.
You know, one of the things that I think both parties, the problem is this. I think the Democrats say they care about the poor. The Republicans, well, okay, taking Trump out, okay, because that was a different rhetorical battle that was going on. I think the Democrats say they believe in the poor, but they don't believe in helping the poor not be poor.
Correct.
I think the Republicans don't want to spend anything on the poor and say almost nothing else.
Correct.
So I think the problem with the poor is that they catch it both ways.
And that's why they need a voice.
And neither party looks out for them because, all right, looking at it from the biblical point of view, the issue with the poor, and that's an overgeneralization to begin with, but let's just stay with overgeneralization to make the point. The issue with the poor is to teach the poor how to fish, not simply hand them a fish. The Republicans just want to push the poor out of the way so there's more for those who already know how to fish or run a fish store or run a restaurant.
And tell the poor, you can fish too. But we're not going to give you a pole.
Yes, but we're not going to tell you how. That's one of the reasons that we care a lot about education. And to be honest, if you look at how, I don't believe the Department of Education should get decimated. I don't believe that. But the overarching argument that the way education works, especially for our kids, is not helpful. Oh, they have the better of the argument.
No question.
They have the they have the better of the argument. And I tell you, here's the thing. If by some chance Trump actually believes what he says, and he actually helps restructure education so it's better for our kids, he will rule forever. And I don't mean him, but I mean the Republicans will rule forever.
Agreed.
Because
if they fix the problems, I say rule on. Right?
And so that's the thing. The Democrats have a whole lot to do. The Republicans, if they actually believe their rhetoric outside of Trump rhetoric, if they actually believe their rhetoric that they want to make things better for people who are at the bottom and actually work it now that they have the political range of authority, I'm not going to be freaking out about it.
Exactly. And we got to cut it off. Thank you for being here. Listen, I'm with you. So people who know me know that sometimes I'm conservative, sometimes I'm liberal, or I may sound liberal, sound conservative. I don't care. It's not about a party. I don't have any particular loyalty to one party or the other. I care about what is in the best interest of all people. And that's kind of my point. So, Dr. Garrison, thank you, sir, for being our guest. Again, Dr. Garrison is the author of a book. It's called Lord, Help My Unbelief, Stories of How God Answers Prayers When We Are Afraid to Have Your Faith. And I believe you can get it on Amazon, correct?
Amazon and anywhere else you buy books.
And anywhere you buy books, okay? And I encourage you to go get it. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Dr. Garrison. And we'll be back on next month. We'll be back on when are we here? Every third Thursday. Every third Thursday. So we thank you for being there. We'll see you then. All right. God bless. Have a great night.